But now we present Caroline, Queen of the Pirates, a series in 13 parts in which Dave Windsor traces the history of the world's best-known offshore radio station, Radio Caroline. Episode 7, The End of an Era.
Loving awareness, Radio Caroline. Love and good music, Radio Caroline.
Good morning and welcome to another day's broadcasting from Radio Caroline 558. We broadcast from the Ross Revenge, anchored in international waters on the North Sea.
Love and good music, Radio Caroline.
Listeners to 259 meters on the 21st of February 1974 had no reason to suppose that following the day's programming from Radio Mi Amigo, anything unusual would happen. But it did. At 9 p.m., instead of the underground station Radio Seagull, Radio Caroline resumed broadcasting, but this time with a new message, that of loving awareness.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, the show's about to start. Guaranteed to blow your head apart. Loving awareness, Radio Caroline. Love and good music, Radio Caroline.
The loving awareness, defensive awareness idea that you could use the station could be used, I should say, to continuously promote that idea. How we relate to each other is to do with where our heads are at, and that it is a creature of habit, basically, and that if you develop any habit, the habit becomes a fact. That at a certain point, it's effort initially. I mean, to be LA is effort, and people say, I couldn't possibly do it. But the moment that the effort is over, that becomes a reality. And that's what we find with the LA thing. I remember the first time I said to the jocks, would you do it? And they said it was totally unprofessional. I wouldn't mention love on the air.
Keep on towing the line for the loving kind of awareness. Keep on towing the line for the loving kind of awareness.
And my own influence came from Gandhi and Martin Luther King.
In the beginning, there was darkness, and the spirit of D.A. reared its head in habitual pattern, preying on the mind of man, oppressing him. And then one man turned to himself and said, in a voice free from fear, "Let there be L.A."
I think I am. Therefore, I am. I think loving awareness is a habit. A habit.
Keep on towing the line for the loving kind of awareness.
A habit.
Keep on towing the line for the loving kind of awareness.
Loving awareness is free. Is free.
The Loving Awareness Band and The Voice of Love. And you also heard Ronan O'Rahilly. So the Mi Amigo, it appeared, had found a new role in life, promoting Belgian waffles by day and love and peace at night. But for how long? After months of procrastination, the Dutch government announced that they were to introduce their own version of the Marine Offences Act, which would outlaw the offshore stations and come into effect on the 1st of September 1974. It would mean the end of 14 years broadcasting from Radio Veronica, closed down for Radio Nordsee International and for Radio Atlantis, who, after leaving the Caroline organization in 1973, had bought their own radio ship, the MV Janine, and were broadcasting programs in both Flemish and English from a position off Genokke in Belgium. On the morning of the 29th of August, the MV Mi Amigo weighed anchor and, after circling the Radio Veronica ship Norderney in a farewell salute, headed for the safety of international waters off the Essex coast, broadcasting as she went. The next morning, Caroline dropped anchor 16 miles east of Clacton. The First Lady of Radio had come home.
Much more music, Radio Caroline! Chicago!
During the last 2 weeks off the Dutch coast, we'd put together 3 small studios which were designed to either make programs or playback taped programs. And again, I don't think there was any clear idea as to what exactly they were going to be used for. We didn't know... We really didn't know how easy it would be to supply the ship either, so... It was a time of nervous excitement, I think you could say.
Radio Caroline. More music. Radio Caroline.
On 259 meters, Radio Mi Amigo continued by day with programs from Caroline aired throughout the night. No mention of the ship's move was made on the air, but the avid listener soon noticed a louder, clearer signal, with the ship now anchored off the English coast. The last day of legitimate transmissions for Dutch offshore radio was to be the 31st of August, 1974. Radio Veronica's last hour, filled with emotional speeches by both management and DJs, was broadcast between 5 and 6 p.m., culminating in the playing of the Dutch national anthem.
Knikkeru doet, dit is Kees Mannenveld. Radio Veronica nieuws. Vanaf dit ogenblik zal Radio Veronica haar uitzendingen nog 30 minuten voortzetten. Het ministerie van Verkeer en Waterstaat heeft bepaald dat op 1 september de wet van kracht zal worden volgens welke omroepuitzendingen van buiten het nationale grondgebied vanaf schepen of vliegtuigen verboden zullen zijn. In verband hiermee zal Radio Veronica vandaag 31 augustus 1974 haar uitzendingen om 6 uur staken. Dan het laatste nieuws op Radio Veronica. Dat betekent, luisteraars, dat wij, het personeel aan boord van het Veronica-zendschip de Norderney, afscheid van u moeten nemen. Dit is Kees Mannenveld voor Radio Veronica aan boord van de Norderney. Luisteraars, namens de gehele bemanning wens ik u het allerbeste. Vaarwel.
Het was fenomenaal. Veronica is wel gewond, maar toch niet verslagen.
Die periode wordt afgesloten. Er sterft iets. Bij het afscheid nemen van Veronica sterfde ook een beetje de democratie in Nederland. Dat spijt me. Voor Nederland.
the end of 14 years broadcasting from Radio Veronica on 538 meters. Next to go was the English service of Radio Atlantis, whose Flemish programs had closed on the 25th of August at 2 p.m.
Radio Atlantis is too much.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks very much for all the letters. Thanks very much for listening. And I do hope that we meet somewhere else. So a very goodbye from yours truly, Dave Vane. See you soon.
Thanks a lot. And Dave?
And a final goodbye from me. Oh, that's not very nice, really.
They've spilled Coke all over it.
I'm most annoyed about that, actually.
Go and
I don't know what to say. Because I've just washed my hair, you see. What is it, Coca-Cola?
I think so, yeah.
That's very disturbing, isn't it? I'm quite stuck forward.
It rots your teeth, but not your hair.
But seriously, bye-bye from me, and thank you for listening, and thank you for putting up with my shows. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. I think I would sum it up if I said, for everybody, the last 8 months have been a real gas, and we just hope that you've got as much pleasure out of it and as much of a blast out of it as we did. And from all the crew and staff of Radio Atlantis, from the MV Janine, it's goodbye.
Wind sounds with the wind sounds on Radio Atlantis. Win, win, win. Oops.
And then there were two. Radio Nordsee International's final hour came to an end at 8 p.m. with speeches by the DJs, Dutch manager John de Mol, and owner of radio ship Mebo 2, Edwin Bollier.
Steeds wat op het schap en weet wie op je
We zijn nu te ontvangen op 3 verschillende golflengten. We zenden uit op 220 meter middengolf. Welkom ook de 49 meter Europaband, luisteraars op de korte golf en verder via FM-kanaal 44. Tot u spreekt een van de eigenaren van de boot, Edwin Bollier.
Liebe Freunde von Radio Nordsee International. Als wir unser Schiff, die Mebo 2, vor nunmehr über 4,5 Jahren vor der niederländischen Küste verankerten. Auf Wiedersehen, auf Wiederhören. Dag vrienden, God bless you all.
Voor nu in ieder geval, reuze bedankt dat u er was. Veel gezondheid en het allerbeste.
The close down of Radio Nordsee International at 8 p.m. on the 31st of August, 1974. Following the close down of RNI, only the Mi Amigo remained on the air. But would Caroline continued as she had when Great Britain outlawed offshore radio in 1967? With most of the broadcasting staff having left the ship on the final tender off the Dutch coast, only 2 disc jockeys remained aboard the ship. As midnight approached, 259 continued putting out love, peace and good music with Peter Hayes and Tony Allen, telling listeners that the station was to continue broadcasting. Defiantly, the MV Mi Amigo greeted Illegality Sunday, the 1st of September, 1974.
The axe is coming down,
And I'd also like to reassure our listeners, I know on behalf of you lot in the studio, and on behalf of our management, that we are not going anywhere.
No go, baby.
We're staying exactly where we are, and we're going to continue broadcasting our music and our love to all of you, so don't worry. And that's, that's on behalf of all of us. And we're going to play a little something right now, and we're going to play this for all the members of the Dutch government, all the members of the Dutch Parliament, and I think from all of us, out here on the Mi Amigo anyway, and also on behalf of all the boys on the Mebo too, and on behalf of all the boys on board of the Janine, let's play a little bit of this record, which is different music, but we'll play it anyway, because this is what we think of you, Veronica, and we hope you think the same about us, and we love you.
Radio Caroline.
Night waves roll, radio Caroline at 259, medium waves blow your mind, Caroline. Night waves roll, 259, for your soul. Music's right here in your ear, and the Archer's very near on Caroline at 259 radio. That's really fine.
Give us a bang when you're ready.
You're tuned to the voice of peace and good music, coming live from the North Sea all through the night on 259 meters medium wave, the voice of Radio Caroline.
Caroline and Mi Amigo continued as if nothing had happened. By now, Radio Mi Amigo had set up offices and new studios in Playa de Aro on the Costa Brava, and thousands of tourists could pop into the new headquarters and meet the DJs who could be seen recording programs through a shop window in the high street. But although Dutch legislation had not brought an end to the activities of the Mi Amigo, the weather very nearly did. On the 8th of November 1975, gales once again struck the North Sea. The storms increased as the day wore on, and by the evening, Caroline was in severe trouble. A former colleague and very good friend of mine, Simon Barrett, was on the air at the time the gales reached their height.
6 after 7 on Caroline, and it does seem rather certain to me anyway that we are in fact on a sandbank at the moment, because the ship is definitely seems to me, I feel it as we hit the bottom. It's rocking in, it's like then. It sort of seems to be hitting something as it sways from side to side, so I think it seems fairly certain we're on a sandbank at the moment. This is Caroline. It's 21 after 7, and there's a lot of banging going on outside. Position is we're on a sandbank, and we're trying to get off it. Even the microphone in front of me seems to be shivering.
I myself had been monitoring Radio Caroline and Radio Mi Amigo for much of the day. And as soon as I heard Simon mention the fact they were in trouble, I telephoned Caroline boss Ronan O'Rahilly, who himself was unaware of the situation on board. Another person on board ship at the time was Chief Engineer Peter Chicago.
You're listening to Radio Caroline, broadcasting on 259 meters, a frequency of 1187 kilohertz. And as most of our listeners now realize, we have got problems at the moment. We broke our anchor chain this evening, and since then we've been drifting in a south or southwesterly direction, and we're approaching the point where we're going to enter British territorial waters. So for that reason, we're now going off the air. Our current position is latitude 51 degrees, 31 minutes north, longitude 01 degrees, 22 minutes east. And as I say, we're in no immediate danger. We've got no real problems except the fact that we are drifting and we're unable to correct the drift of the ship, and we've got difficulties in lowering our standby anchors. So if anybody in the office is listening, you'll realize that the situation has got quite desperate, and I'm sure you're doing all you can. We are in touch with the Coast Guard authorities, who've been of great assistance to us in establishing our position. And if people there are listening, we'd like to thank you very much indeed for all your cooperation, and we'd like to ask people once again not to telephone the Coast Guard authorities. They are already helping us a great deal, and you'll only block up their telephone lines. So thanks again, and I'll turn you back to Michael Lloyd, who will finish off this program. I'd like to say hello to my girlfriend if she's listening. Hello, Alan. Everything's okay out here. Don't get worried. And we're all safe. We're all fine. All in good spirits. What do we say now? What can you say?
Where's the music here? Where's the going off the music? Here we go. Let's see. Right here on the old turntable. Warm it up. Plant the gears. There we go. What about this says we're going off the air. For the time being, not for very long. Until next time. No, it doesn't happen every day at all. You see that? You're in for a treat. Serves you right for listening to your radio, right? You gotta... Simon, do you have any last words?
I'm a bit nearer home tonight, and my girlfriend as well, the other guy, just said hello to his. So, although I said hello to her about 3 times in my program, hello again, and to all the rest of my relations as well. Unfortunately, yours can't hear. They've got
very good radios and very good ears, one or the other. I think we are drifting closer to my home, too, right?
Yeah.
We're heading in a westerly direction.
I could be a
couple of thousand more.
Section over there.
Okay, I think we'll be back on the air tomorrow night. Of course. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Okay? All righty. Good night.
Later the next day, Trinity House sent a ship out to mark our position, and they informed us that we were actually inside British territorial waters, which was a claim that we denied. But within ourselves, I think we probably assumed that they knew what they were talking about, and we just wondered what was going to happen next. So they dropped us in a position that they assured us was actually outside British waters. We had our own representative on board who was quite happy about the position of the boat, and we were given instructions to go back on the air. Nobody was happy about the position where we were actually lying, but it was felt that we could go back on the air and they would come out and move the ship again within the week.
Good morning, this is Radio Caroline and Radio Mi Amigo on 259.
If you're wondering what's been going on and where we've been the last few days here at Radio Caroline, well, if you weren't listening on Saturday night and didn't quite know what was going on, we had a little trouble on Saturday night when our ship, the Mi Amigo, started to drift. And a lot of thanks must go to the help on Saturday night when the Mi Amigo was in a state of distress. A lot of thanks must go to the guys at Northforeland Radio over there in Margate, because they really helped us on Saturday night, and we're grateful. It's 24 after 6 on Radio Caroline 259, and more people to thank are people from the tug company in Felixstowe who were on hand, on standby the time 24 hours a day to help us out if we were in need of assistance. And those are people on the tug Sun 22, the tug Egerton.
All seemed to be well, but the fears of those like Peter Chicago and Simon Barrett were well-founded. For after only 24 hours of being back on the air, a situation which gave listeners to 259 meters some of the most exciting live radio ever.
It was the next day, mid-afternoon or early afternoon, about 3-ish it might have been. I was doing some washing, and I went outside to hang this washing out, and I saw coming towards us from about half a mile away this launch, and as it got nearer, we gradually saw more details of the people that were on it, and we saw that they had uniforms on.
I was welcomed by the unfamiliar sight of a British policeman walking into the transmitter room, and it was really the most kind of almost surrealistic effect. A British policeman in the very place that a British policeman can't possibly be.
here, you can see that. Right. You got some music. What is that? We switch it off, please. No, why? Listen, there's nothing wrong. We'll switch it off. It is off, man. You can see that there's nothing playing in here. Yeah, the tape recorder.
The raid on the Mi Amigo by the Essex Police and members of the Home Office Radio Regulatory Department resulted not only in the close down of the radio transmitter on board, but also in the arrest of the captain of the ship, Dutchman Werner de Schwart, American DJ Michael Lloyd, engineer Peter Chicago, and my old chum, Simon Barrett.
We were taken off the ship. In fact, there was 4 of us taken off. Myself and another DJ, Mike Lloyd, an American, plus the English engineer that was on the ship, and the captain. And it was a very, very cold day and very foggy. I can't remember how long the journey to Southend lasted, but it must have been a couple of hours, an hour and a half at least. And the police and various Home Office officials were fairly polite and correct and were engaging in conversation, although we were, of course, trying not to give anything away. The most incredible thing about the whole incident to me was when we arrived at Southend Pier. We arrived at the end of Southend Pier, which is one of the longest piers in the world. I think it's 1.25 miles long. And we landed on the end. It was freezing cold. It was very foggy. There was no escape for us. We were definitely captured. That was it. And we got off this little launch, and the police produced these handcuffs.
They'd already handcuffed the captain and Simon Barrett. And I was protesting because, as I said, we've come all this way and we're obviously not going to run away anywhere. There's not really anywhere to run to. I said, let's walk in a dignified way back to the van and, forget about the idea of handcuffs. And they said, we're very sorry, but it is the procedure and the regulations. But I'm a very obstinate person anyway. And at this point, I just said to them, well, there's no way you're putting the handcuffs on me. I'll jump off the pier rather than be handcuffed. So at that point, they said, all right, then, we'll forget about the handcuffs. And they then took them off the captain and I think Simon Barrett. We were taken back, obviously, to Southend Police Station, interviewed separately, well, locked up separately as well. And appeared in court in the morning, and at this point we had to suddenly find quite a large sum in terms of a bail guarantee, because I think it was the same in each case, but they set the bail at something like £1,000 each. And because we didn't know who was separately going to guarantee the amounts, I think we had one person who came down to the court who guaranteed the bail for all of us. But in fact, his credit wouldn't have actually withstood scrutiny, because we were expecting the bail to be set at some quite reasonable amount. And for that, he would quite easily have satisfied a scrutiny. But when the bail was set at something like £4,000 or £5,000 for the 4 of us, fortunately, that didn't enter into it. Otherwise, we might not have got away so easily.
The 4 men appeared in Southend Magistrates Court on the 11th of December 1975 and were tried under the Marine Offences Act. The court fined them a total of £475 and also ordered the confiscation of the Mi Amigo if it ever entered British territorial waters again.
Loving awareness, Radio Caroline. Loving good music, Radio Caroline.
And so we come to the close of another day's transmissions from Radio Caroline 558. We trust you've enjoyed our programmes and will rejoin us sometime tomorrow. Our programmes commence at 5 o'clock.
Loving good music, Radio Caroline.
And next week, Caroline has another brush with the law. And there's the introduction of a new all-day English service.
Caroline.